growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of the Lionhearted, where Dr. DrRasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, you are tuned in to Lionhearted with Dr. DrRasner. Please reach out to me at my email, which is DrRasner, DrRasner, at AOL. And if you want to see any of my courses or where I'm presenting, please reach out to my website, which is the RasnerInstitute.com. Okay, the last couple podcasts I've been basing them around the most common questions I've had over this last year of doing these. And according to my downloads, it feels like that's a good, at least temporary way to reach out to you. So those of you today in your car or in the gym or walking around your neighborhood to get a little exercise, if by chance you're listening to me, let's try to make this another worthwhile adventure together and hit you up with some things that I think resonate to most of you. And the one thing I want to start with, let me ask the first question. The first question I pulled out of my emails were, why do I push oral surgery so much as one of the skills I think you need to advance, as opposed to, they actually said, as opposed to, ortho or endo, or even, as they said, aesthetic dentistry. So maybe I'm not making myself clear at all here, because I need to be very clear. And I'll even risk that the innuendo here was because I teach oral surgical, atraumatic, and bone grafting skills, so maybe there's a personal agenda. Not at all. My classes only hold 8 to 10 guys, and they pretty much sell out every time I give one. So I don't really even need to market them, to be quite honest with you, as much as I mention them. Here's the true reason, and from these podcasts, if this isn't your first time, that my agenda is core value real for you. I am doing these because I want to make a difference in where you're at in this profession. That could often be construed, in my opinion, as maybe a mistake for some of the early dentists. And I get it, man. Stuck in an associateship after training at some amazing 4-year grad program, and now you're stuck doing operative dentistry on many more patients per day than probably you should be doing. So here's the thing. Let me make it as clear as I can right now. The reason I talk about training for oral surgical skills is only one reason. It's because I think the number one branding and the number one skill set that you should align with yourself, whether you have an independent practice or even if you're an associate, is an oral sedation permit, because that will give you the biggest return for your buck. And just listen, if you never listened to this in detail before, listen, because even if you don't do oral surgical skills, even if you only got the oral sedation permit required from your country, and it's different in every country, or in your state, and even if you limited it to your other procedures that you provide, you will attract more patients than anything else you will market by marketing sedation. I'm not kidding. I'm 100% sure of it. I've done it for 20 some years, and I'm completely convinced that there's no other skill, not ortho, not aesthetic dentistry, not endo, that you can market. And when you do market sedation, whether you believe it this second or not, as you're listening to me, you are going to attract people that you are going to be surprised that are out there. Patients that have not been to a dentist in years, because it's not a joke. What we do for a living, you and I, actually intimidates and scares and has hurt many, many patients for hundreds of years. So that is our reputation. It's real, man. And so the only reason you may not feel this when I speak to you about this is because you haven't marketed it enough. Okay. And so if you market that, you're going to get patients coming to you that haven't been to a dentist in years. It's going to astound you. And they're all ages, by the way. They'll be from 80, I said 80, to their 20s. I get it all the time. And I'm certainly positive it's not unique to my part of the United States. Now, those patients that come in will have a wide array of needs from you. Some of them will be certainly endo, aesthetics, missing teeth, but a lot of them are going to have non-restorable teeth that if you were able to make that part of your treatment plan and you could extract those teeth during one of the sedation processes, visits, then it enhances your reputation. It enhances the convenience for that patient that they don't have to go to several different doctors to get this done. Okay, so that's why you hear me talk about that. It's not the only skill that I think you need to be. And I can't really speak to you about what's the most important skill. I'm going to try right now. I certainly think you need to make a significant commitment to distinguish yourself from in aesthetic dentistry. And when I say aesthetic dentistry, as many of you know from listening to me, for me, it was going out to the West Coast to hear Spear and Coys and train well before they had the Institute in Phoenix, Arizona, and learning all the different materials and indications of what to use when. Now, right along with that, I would have to say to you that courses in occlusion and how to manage the parafunctional patient, which, as we all know, are abundant, is equally important. So here's the thing that I want you to feel right now. I just gave a course this weekend in my office. I give 4 of them a year. And it is how to take out teeth atraumatically. It's about bone grafting. And it's about placing implant dentistry. There are combinations depending on the background of the applicant for the course. Here's what I want you to feel. And I really need you to think about this. The guys that come to these courses are range in age, I would say, from being out for 1 year. Most of them, I would say, are out from 5 to 15 years. And then there's some doctors that have been out for quite some time. We actually had a doctor this weekend who have been out for 38 years. And here's what astounds me. They are taking the leap of faith, and it's not just with me, to invest the money, the time, be away from their families, the cost of it for the educational advancement of their individual skill level. And all of those doctors have stories that they share with me that tell me they are on the road to a very different place and outcome from maybe some of you that are stuck right now in a growthless associateship where you're doing the same operative dentistry each day because you haven't advanced your skill sets. And I know that you've heard me speak to you upon time and time again about not overspending money in your first 10 years. If you've listened to all my podcasts, you would hear me tell you that the only place that I would invest, I certainly would invest if I'm a new dentist in education, in myself, versus a new foreign car, a new house. Of course you would invest in that because that's going to lead to all the fun things down the road. So even if you had to borrow to do that, I'm here to tell you today, look, if I'm really making this worthwhile, I mean, why else would I be doing this on a Sunday? And I'm really trying to get inside your head. And I genuinely want to help you. Then why wouldn't I really try to get in your ear weekly, even if you hear some of this over and over again, because I think you need to hear some of this over and over again to push you to make a change. I can imagine how hard it must be right now on a Sunday to think, oh my God, I'm going into work tomorrow and I'm going to be doing the same old all week long on all the different patients. It's not interesting to me anymore, and I'm stuck. So you're not stuck. These guys all have a story similar to you. One of them was stuck in an associateship. Not one of them, more than one of them, for like 7 years. And he just made the break and started investing in himself and bought a practice. And why they bought the practice, they're often, like I did, working in other practices. Look, man, I say this sometimes in my lectures. Nobody's coming to rescue you. You hear me? No one is coming to rescue you. You have to rescue yourself. You're the only one that can make these hardcore decisions about how you're going to spend enough of your time each year to make a difference in your skill set. So the answer obviously was a long answer to a question. I think it's important that you invest money from the very beginning in yourself and separate your skill level. Now, the skill that will give the biggest return is sedation. And the funny part about that is it's really not a skill. Sedation, yeah, it's a skill to keep patients safe, but it's a permit that allows you to offer oral sedation. And I know many of you listening probably have an IV sedation permit. And everybody has their own opinion on it. Some of my closest friends, some of the best clinicians I know in our industry have their own IV sedation permit. I'm also of the mindset that I don't want anything to happen to you or your career that will sidetrack you and set you back years. So that's why you always hear me tell you things like this. I'm against anything that is too risky for you as a dentist. So I think dentists should treat in their private settings, ASA 1s, ASA 2s. I think ASA 3s should be treated by the oral surgeon or at a hospital. I mean, it's really how I feel. I'm not an advocate at all of oral sedating children. And I personally, it's one guy's opinion, if you didn't already have an IV sedation permit, I think IV sedation should be handled by a team that does IV sedation while you can focus on your beautiful dentistry. Now, that may seem amusing, comical to some of my talented colleagues listening right now. But look, when you tune into me, you're going to get what I believe. And I don't want you sidetracked. I'm not even an advocate of GPs doing third molar wisdom teeth extractions. When you hear me talk about teaching extractions, it's every tooth but wisdom teeth, because I believe there's higher morbidity and complications between taking second and third molars out, particularly in the mandible. So, and there's abundant patients. You've heard my numbers before about what I produce and collect each year. So there's plenty of patients, even without doing ASA 3s, third molars, oral sedation on children. And children for me are, under 18 years old in terms of oral sedation. So that's my answer. It doesn't mean that you do have to become competent in my opinion. It's obviously has a lot to do with what you're attracted to, but becoming incredibly proficient in endo, aesthetics, oral sedation, which leads to the natural progression for me of atraumatic extractions, bone grafting, and then if you're going to know how to do that, I certainly think there's a place for the GP to become proficient, if at nothing else, in basic surgical and prosthetic implant dentistry. And what I mean by that is abundant bone implants, implants between the mental foramen and the mandible to rescue denturaries. I mean, you can make a career just of doing that, becoming amazingly proficient at just those two scenarios. Not ever getting into ramus grafts or augmenting horizontal bone or doing sinus lifts and things like this. There is abundant areas for success for you. And the other thing it does is it opens up the window of interest of what you get to do every day going forward as a GP. So, I'm so committed to this. I want to tell you a little story. In my last podcast, and one of you asked for the company, and I will give it out at this point if you write to me. I marketed for the first time, unlike I have, with a magazine company that it's pretty serious investment, that produces a magazine for you that you distribute in two ways. You direct mail it, and you also can put it in racks in stores. That's how they get it out to the public for you. And it seems to be making a decent dent in the return on investment for me. And I'm very careful before I recommend stuff, so you need to know that. Why I'm telling you the story is that particular company that's been around for years pushed me pretty hard to put a offer in the magazine, meaning, a call to action. And I understand that. So if you call today, or if you call this number, you'll get this discount, or you'll get this or that. And I had to fight them on it. And it was really a little intimidating for me because that's their business. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know as much as they do. But that was not my call to action. I didn't have a call to action. The thing that motivated them, that I wanted these patients receiving this to be reacting to, was oral sedation. Now you need to know this, I don't charge for our oral sedation. And obviously it does cost me something, not much. I've looked up the cost of the pills, and the pills are, I believe, the pills being triazolam, Benadryl, and Atarax are $8 per dose. Of course, the nitrous oxide is more money than that, and that goes with my protocol. And simply call and write to me if you're tuning in for the first time or watch an earlier podcast to see what that protocol is. But it is the most amazing oral sedation protocol, in my opinion, on the market. I mean, how much more amazing could it be? It's 24 years now, and I've never had an untoward reaction. I've had a couple a year that aren't sedated enough, and I mean a couple a year, but I've never had the necessity to call 911 because something went awry. That's pretty doggone effective for me. So I don't charge for that. It's amazing to me that patients think that's a big deal. And look, the key to me is this. I get patients calling me on a consistent basis. I am clearly that person in my part of New Jersey, if not the country, that does sedation. Now, how big the no-cost part of it is, I don't really know. But I'm willing to give that away. I'm not willing to market free bleaching or free consultations or anything else that implies a discount with my work. Because I think free is the worst word in marketing a dentist can use. And the problem with it is yes, it attracts patients, but the wrong patients. I am 100% convinced. In fact, I was stone cold against direct mail like I just did with these magazines I'm alluding to with you, because I thought magazines implied discounts when you get those little Val packs in the mail. But this magazine is such a high quality product, and it is. They spend about 4 months at least. They send out a professional photographer to your office. I mean, it is very well planned. They cross their T's, they dot their I's. You have to take a full day off. Ours was on a Friday because we're closed on Fridays. Have your patients ready, sign the consents, the allowances of their photographs. It's a big deal. And the outcome of it is they put together an outstanding professional product. And again, I'm not marketing them right now. I'm telling you this because even as we got to the end of this, I refused to do what they wanted me to do, which was offer a discount, a call to action to get people to respond. The only thing I was willing to do, which of course I'm always willing to do, is talk about no-cost sedation. So that's a big deal with my practice. And again, if you want that, you'll write to me and call to me. Real quick, let me do this one because it ties into the first question. It is, is what's the number one thing I would do different? That's a big question to ask me. It's a good question to ask me. If I could do things over again, what's the one thing I would do different for greater success? And my answer is not going to surprise you. It's going to be very consistent, but I know what I would do. First of all, there's more than one thing I would do. The first thing is I would have started training even earlier, and I would I would have trained in more continuums earlier than taking single day courses, which is kind of a weird thing for me to say because I give a lot of single day courses. But you have to, listen, man, your time is everything. Time with a course is time away from your loved ones. Time at a course is one less day for you to get your psyche back, because what we do every day is pretty hard. It's absolutely hard. And to do it for a long period of time, you got to have stability in your life and balance in your life. And that means your family, your kids, your wife, your husband. I absolutely positively believe that. And I would have done more of that, by the way. And what I mean by that is I've told you on other podcasts that I used to treatment plan my year. I did. I knew in September, as I do right now, what courses I would be taking in the first half of the next year. I knew it. I knew it because I filled out the registration and I paid for them. So I wouldn't, and the reason I did that is when I didn't do that, I used to cancel them if I didn't have an investment in it, maybe a month before the course was about to start. So a continuum, you see, because a continuum is a skill altering experience for you. If you take a 3 or 4 day endo course or bone grafting course or extraction course like the docs just did with mine, that's a skill that changes you when you go back to your office on Monday. And that's what it's all about. You know, taking the spirit continuums in Phoenix are continuums. They are me taking the Dawson continuums for 4 or 5 years. I'm not telling you never not to take a single course. I did mix those in, but that's what I would have done different. I didn't do that in the beginning. My first 5 or 10 years were 1 day course here on all kinds of erratic things, from forensic dentistry, because it was interesting. Like, don't kill the messenger. I'm just answering the question. I don't have time to go take a course on forensic dentistry if I was starting over. Besides, you guys can Google and read about that online. I couldn't. I need things that are going to change the way I practice and distinguish my skill set from the guys down the street. That's where I would focus. And the other changes I would make is I would be more careful to treatment plan my personal life. I mean, let me just say this in closing. It's really easy, especially if you're a passionate doctor about dentistry. It's so easy to get caught up in the love of what we do. I mean that. You know, you take a course like some of the docs did this weekend, and you go back and you start doing successful procedures that you weren't able to do before the course. It's intoxicating. I mean, you get all, oh my God, I'm able to do this. I remember what it felt like when I did my first implant ever. I still remember that. And there's a natural desire to start taking even more courses. I still fight it today. But you got one life. And part of that life, the life's more than dentistry. You know, it's your loved one, it's your children, it's other interests besides dentistry. The best dentists I know in this industry have both. They're not just great clinicians. They're not just partiers. They are both. They know how to have balance. They take many weeks off a year. They usually have healthy financial statements by the time they're in their late 40s or 50s, sometimes even earlier. So listen, guys, you know why I'm here by now. Sometimes I go off on rants and I know it, but I hope this feels like we're having a private conversation, you know, and you take a couple pearls away from me, because that's my intent. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week on The Lionhearted.
Hey, it's Beth at the Rasner Institute, and I'm here to tell you about one of the most empowering courses in dentistry today. We offer a highly personalized, hands-on, live patient course here in our office in New Jersey. We're going to ask you what types of procedures you're hoping to see, and then we'll line those procedures up with the available caseload. You'll work in a team with another doctor, taking turns as doctor and assistant, and when you need help, we're there to guide you. But now we've got some new options. Now we're offering a limited number of observer-only spots. Maybe you're just not ready to make that hands-on move into live patients. Maybe watching will help you get ready to make that move into live patients. So come and join us as an observer. The second option is a single-day option. We've heard from a lot of people that maybe 2 days was too much and they couldn't get away. So now we're offering Friday only, Saturday only, or you can still come for both. And no matter which day you come, everybody's welcome to come to the Friday night dinner. It's a totally awesome and empowering experience that will leave you feeling like a gladiator.